You don't wake up one day and suddenly become better. There is no lightning strike, no secret handshake, no magical morning where you feel ready. You wake up tired, doubtful, heavy with excuses you've repeated so often they sound like truth. And that's exactly where the real work begins. Because being better is not about feeling strong. It's about moving when everything inside you says stop. Look around. Most people are living in quiet surrender. They scroll instead of building. They complain instead of adapting. They wait for motivation like it's a rescue team coming to save them from effort. But the truth is brutal and simple. Nobody is coming. Edison failed thousands of times before the world ever saw light. Lincoln lost again and again before he carried the weight of a nation. Ford was laughed at before he redefined movement itself. They didn't wait for confidence, they earned it through relentless discomfort. Your comfort zone is not a home, it's a cage with soft walls. You don't notice the limits at first because they feel safe, familiar, predictable. But every day you stay there, your potential suffocates quietly. The voice inside you gets smaller, the standards drop lower, and you start telling yourself stories to justify staying average. I'm too busy, I'm too tired, maybe tomorrow. Those words become chains. Being better starts with brutal honesty, not the polite honesty you show the world, but the ruthless truth you admit in silence. Where are you weak? Where are you lazy? Where are you hiding behind excuses dressed up as logic? This is not about shame, it's about clarity, because clarity is power. When you stop lying to yourself, you stop negotiating with mediocrity. Mindset is the battlefield. Every morning, your mind wakes up looking for the easiest path. It wants comfort, distraction, instant relief. But you are not your impulses. You are the one who decides what those impulses mean. When pain shows up, you can label it as suffering or as growth. Same sensation, different destiny. The warriors of history understood this. Carnegie worked through exhaustion not because he enjoyed it, but because he knew effort was the price of expansion. Disney faced rejection not as proof of failure, but as confirmation he was doing something bold enough to challenge the world. Belief is built through evidence, not slogans. Every small promise you keep to yourself becomes a brick in the foundation of confidence. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you send a message to your nervous system. I am someone who shows up. At first, that voice is quiet, fragile, but repetition makes it louder, stronger. Eventually, it drowns out doubt. Clarity sharpens your path. Without it, you run fast in circles. With it, every action has direction. Ask yourself, what actually moves me forward? Not what feels urgent, not what looks impressive, what truly builds strength. Most people avoid this question because the answer demands sacrifice. But sacrifice is simply the exchange of what you want now for what you want most. Vision stretches your tolerance for hardship. When you can see a stronger version of yourself, disciplined, resilient, unbreakable, you begin to endure what once felt impossible. That vision becomes a magnet pulling you through resistance. Ford saw a future where movement was accessible to all, and that vision allowed him to push through ridicule. You must hold a vision of your own transformation so clearly that discomfort becomes a necessary step rather than an obstacle. Purpose gives weight to your effort. Without purpose, discipline feels like punishment. With purpose, it becomes devotion. Why are you doing this? Why push harder? Why choose the harder path? Because there is a version of you waiting on the other side that refuses to live small. That version demands effort, demands growth, demands honesty. And discipline, real discipline, is not about motivation. It's about action without permission from your feelings. You wake up and move. You train when you're tired. You learn when you're bored. You act when doubt whispers that it's pointless. Discipline is self-respect in motion. It is proof that you trust your future more than your present comfort. Action is where identity changes, not in thinking, not in planning endlessly, in doing, in sweating, in failing, in adjusting. Edison didn't theorize his way to greatness, he experimented relentlessly. Lincoln didn't think his way to courage, he acted through fear repeatedly until courage became his default. And through this relentless action, you begin to notice something. You are changing, not suddenly, not dramatically, but undeniably. Your tolerance for discomfort increases, your focus sharpens, your excuses lose their power, and the person you once were starts to feel unfamiliar. That's when the real transformation begins.
Not when the world applauds you, not when people finally notice your progress, but in the quiet moments when you realize you are no longer negotiating with your old limits. You start making decisions faster, you stop asking for permission, you stop waiting for perfect conditions, because you finally understand that perfection is just fear wearing a fancy mask. There comes a moment, subtle but powerful, when you look at a challenge that once intimidated you, and instead of shrinking back, you lean forward. You don't feel fearless, you feel ready. And that is the difference most people never understand. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that your future is more important than your comfort. Day after day, action after action, you build a new internal standard. What once felt impossible becomes normal. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. And suddenly, the conversations in your head change. You no longer say, "Can I really do this?" You start saying, "How far can I go if I refuse to quit?" The outside world may not notice immediately, but inside you, a revolution is happening. Your posture changes, your habits become sharper, your time becomes more valuable. You stop chasing approval and start chasing growth. And here is the truth most people avoid. Transformation is not glamorous. It is early mornings when no one claps for you. It's late nights when doubt whispers in your ear. It is choosing discipline again and again, even when your emotions beg you to rest. But every time you keep going, you are sending a message to your brain. I am someone who finishes what I start. And identity is built through repetition. One action doesn't change you. One decision doesn't define you. But thousands of small promises kept turn into unshakable self-respect. Eventually, you reach a moment where you look back and you barely recognize the person who once doubted everything. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. And the most beautiful part? Your transformation gives permission to others. People around you begin to change, not because you told them to, but because your consistency becomes undeniable proof that growth is possible. You realize that your journey was never just about success. It was about evolution. Becoming someone who does hard things. Becoming someone who keeps moving forward, even when progress feels invisible. So when the next obstacle appears, and it will appear, you won't panic. You will smile quietly, because deep inside you know, I have survived worse. I have built strength through action, and I am no longer the person who gives up. And that is the moment you understand. Transformation is not a destination. It is a lifestyle, a daily commitment, a personal revolution, a silent promise that no matter how hard the road becomes, you will keep showing up. Because now, you are not chasing motivation. You are living discipline. You are breathing purpose. You are becoming unstoppable, one decision at a time.